Oh, fair. Oh, it says we're live. Hello, everybody. It is Vaginal Fantasy time. This, if you did not know, is a book club where once a month, me and my 3 co-hosts discuss a book of our choice. And in the interim, on our forums, our community discusses it as well, and our alt book. Thank you for coming here. God, that just derailed. Anyway, let me introduce my co-host. God, I'm so bad. Let me introduce my co-host, Bonnie Burton.
Hello. Welcome to my home. And yes,
Kylie. Yeah, I'm sorry. Go.
Yeah, go ahead. Anyway.
Yeah. Okay. Kylie Caseby.
Hi.
And the lovely Veronica Belmont, who's phoning in from Vegas, baby.
Welcome to my home, Las Vegas. I don't really live here, only most of the time.
What Veronica happens in Vegas, Veronica stays and happens and stays and stuff.
Doesn't make sense.
Those things, yes.
Well, I'm really good with words.
Okay, so moving on. I'm going to do shout-outs to our local meetups, and then we're going to talk about what we are drinking and our book, our theme this month, which is BSDM. So I'm shouting out a trigger warning to anybody who might be sensitive about certain issues with regard to violence and or assault. This might not be the hangout you want to join us on. And if you are new to our channel, please subscribe to show your support, because that really helps us a lot. Okay, we have local meetups around the country, and I give a shout out to them. So this month, the Jayville VJJs met in Jacksonville, Florida. The Austin Reverse Cowgirls met in Austin, Texas. The Ambassadors of Smut met in Orange County, California. The Gotham Quills and Quims met in New York City. The Carnal in Columbia, that's new, in Columbia, Maryland. And the Viking Booty, the Swedish group, met online. And next month, we have the Buttered Crumpets in the UK and the Vaginal Fantasy Down Under in Australia. So if you are have a local group and you want to get together with people, either online or off, just check our local group section of the forums. Ladies, how you doing?
I do have to warn you, I have been up for, I think, 38 hours now.
Why?
So I haven't gone to bed from last night yet. I had a bunch of deadlines, writing stuff, and then I had to get up early to go to the CNET offices for a podcast, and then, yeah, so I haven't slept in a while, so I might trail off into another world or hallucinate. I don't know. But I'm drinking alcohol, so it can only get better.
What are you drinking today, Bonnie?
It's like a rosé. It was in the refrigerator, and it's cold. So it's not red wine, per se. It's more like a, is that what they call it, Chablis? I don't know.
No, it's a rosé.
A rosé, okay. It was left over from a party, so I haven't drank it yet, so I'm drinking it now. Out of my fantasy glass.
It's lovely.
It's
all of us have one, right? Do we all have one? Yeah, okay. Kyla, what are you drinking this month?
I am drinking a screwdriver. Yeah, it's really big, it seems like, but it's actually mostly just the juice.
It looks bigger than your head.
Yeah, it is.
It's like a Mardi Gras. It's like one of those Mardi Gras.
I know. It's really, I promise you, it's mostly just juice.
And Veronica, what are you doing in Vegas? Did you have like a big torso size mug? Or?
No, I went to the little the gift shop at the hotel and bought a half bottle of wine. So I'm drinking that puppy, but I got an early call time tomorrow, so hopefully I don't drink all of it. I'll try to save most of it for tomorrow night. Yay!
And
but,
you were the only one who's appropriate with the red wine / beating and blood theme this month.
The red wine beating and blood theme. Great. This is going to be so fucked up.
Yeah.
So messed up. I'm sorry. This is going to be a messed up podcast.
I am rebelling against any rules against drinking that might have been given to me by somebody.
Drinking something with screw in the title is apt.
There you go.
Well, I am drinking a Zip wine, not sponsored by, but I found these in the it's an actual mug that you buy at the store. It's essentially a wine cup with a twist-on cap.
You've had these before. Yeah. You have had this before, or I've seen this before.
I had the stacked cup version. This is a different, more sophisticated, because it has the stem going on.
Good?
Where do you buy these?
It was at like a convenience store. I wanted a Charleston chew or something. I don't know.
You should freeze those.
Didn't we have the stacked wine at one of the cons? We had a stacked wine.
We had the wine with the cups that twirled off.
Yeah, I
Oh.
want that again. I think we should find that and have that one time in one of our shows.
Okay.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
I'll go join in on that.
Yeah.
Be opposed to alcohol sponsorship.
No.
Yes.
Yes.
We're not opposed to sponsorship of any kind, except probably no standards for this group at all.
No standards at all. No, just whatever. Just send it on in.
Okay, so I guess we should get into this book.
Oh God, yeah.
All right, that.
Well, the good thing, okay, and also, guys, we are going to talk extensively about 50 Shades and the movie, so if you don't want to be spoiled in that area, go away. I'm trying to drive everyone away from this subject because I don't know how
can
I'm
you
going to
get
actually talk
spoiled?
about it.
There's no ending.
Do you want me
True.
to really?
Yes. They've already started the other ones.
Okay, so it's so obvious this is all my fault. So.
No, it's not your fault. This is great. We had more discussion on our forums, goodreads.com/vaginalfantasy, this month than in a year. So, yay for that.
I think it was very good timing. I think it was really great.
I picked for February because it's Valentine's Day, so why not some bondage? The Story of O, which is published, but I'm gonna totally butcher these names because I'm not good in French, but I think it's Pauline Reger. Reger? I think
Rage?
doesn't matter.
Rage?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I don't know.
How's it spelled?
Anne Decoles, I think, is the real name of the author of this book, but she was not revealed. She didn't reveal herself as the author of Story of O, except for 20 years ago. So it's real in the 90s. She came out saying, "I wrote this book," but it was a nom de plume. So it's Pauline. It's Story of O. It was in 1954. So it's very important that you know when this was published.
Oh,
Because
I thought it was earlier.
first of its kind. And yes, there was Marquis de Sade. Yes, there was Canterbury Tales. Yes, there were other erotica that existed. But this is the first one that was written by a woman, and it really showed the woman's point of view, whether you agree with it or not. And it's about women's sexuality, whether you agree with it or not. Doesn't matter. It was basically brand new. But think of it like, and someone brought this up in our forums, like Picasso, right? So when you see a Picasso, everyone's like, my kid can draw better than that, or what's this? He's a horrible artist. He was the first to give that kind of perspective to that art form. So think of it like this.
Okay. So let me read the back of it, and then we'll go into it. You don't need to. Bonnie, don't apologize one bit. We all, I did extensive warnings, and I think it was an awesome pick, and it's awesome that we can discuss something that's sort of current pop culture.
I'll read the back of this, but I think there are many people that have different versions of this book, and I think the Kindle is different the way it's described. So I'll just read what this says in the back of it. It might be.
Do it.
This is.
Drink some.
Oh yeah, hold on. Take a gulp.
Let's gulp it down, ladies.
It'll be a long ride. No pun intended. Well, sort of pun. Okay.
Okay.
Rediscover the notorious novel of dark obsession that introduced the world to erotic fiction. That's debatable, but whatever. Okay. So how far will a woman go to express her love? In this exquisite and taboo novel of passion and desire, the answer emerges through a daring exploration of the deepest bonds of sensual domination.
What? How is this the description of this book?
This is it. I'm reading it right there. Okay.
Well, all right. Keep going. Get through it.
Okay. O is a beautiful Parisian fashion photographer determined to understand and prove her consuming devotion to her lover René through complete submission to his every whim, his every desire. It's a journey of forbidden, dangerous choices that sweeps her through the secret gardens of the sexual underground, from the inner sanctum of a private club where willing women are schooled in the art of subjugation.
What?
Excruciating embraces of René's friend Sir Stephen, O tests the outmost limits of pleasure. For, as O discovers, true freedom lies in her pure and complete willingness to do anything for love.
Ugh.
So
What is the description of this book? That is
That is not what happened.
Okay, so I have a question. I have a question that may inflame some viewers.
We're gonna piss a lot of people off. We are expressing our own personal opinions about this subject and the books, guys. So
I do want to put
we're not judging you if you do anything. I don't care what you do.
Disclaimer out there because there was quite a debate going on in our forums that turned into a lot of personal attacks. So I want to clear the air right now. Whether or not you agree with what happened in this book, whether this book turned you on or turned you completely off, fine. That's your opinion, and opinions are valid. That's what a book club is for. That's what forums are for. But please refrain from calling people who like this book and who really were interested in this book. Don't call them perverts. It's attacking a person for liking something. Sometimes we like things in fantasy that don't reflect how we really are sexually. So,
Listen, everybody do what they want. If you're a consenting adult, that's your choice. I'm probably going to express opinions that probably might people feel like they're being judged. I'm not judging anybody, but I'm expressing my experience of these books.
I just want to put it out there because the forums get a little attacky.
Yeah,
okay,
let's not attack people personally.
Although I will attack and say that's kind of shitty, so don't do that. Just be good to each other and respect each other's opinion. I'll attack you people by saying that. But I feel like this book tricked me in my brain areas. Like, part of me wanted to say, oh, I'm feminist. Like, this should be fine. She's exploring her own sexuality the way she feels is right. And then the other part of me was like, this is bad. Like, there can be no good here. Like, what is happening right now? So there was definitely dueling feelings of, female empowerment with feeling like maybe she wasn't as empowered as I wanted to think she was. And so I kind of want to talk about that a little bit and, figure out what her level of agency was with this whole thing and, what it really, I guess it kind of comes down to the crux of the entire argument for this book or against this book is, was she really a willing participant or was she, I don't know. I mean, it's so complicated. I can't even really unpack it easily at all. And I mean, I guess that's why this book is taught in colleges,
Yeah. I want to give a little preface about this book, a little bit of history about it before we get into it too deeply. This book was written as a dare because the author of this book had a lover who was they were intellectual equals, but he was in the publishing business, as she was too. That's why she used a fake name, because she was way up in the elite aristocrat, publishing world, and she couldn't use her real name for this. But it was never meant to be published. It was a dare by her boyfriend/lover who said that he didn't think women could write erotica as well as Marquis de Sade. And she's like, actually, I think I can. And she took him up on the dare. And it was a love letter to him. So the first half of the book was written very quickly as a love letter to her lover. And it was never meant to be published or passed around or publishers to see it or anything. That's why the book is it feels like it goes really, really fast and then it slows to a screeching halt and then there's things that are confusing. So keep that in mind. Also in mind that this is a translation. So things do get lost in a French to English translation that might not.
There were a lot of touching her womb or her belly, which is basically her vagina.
Words that don't quite make sense. Again, this was published in 1954, and I'm not giving excuses for it, whether you like it or hate it, whatever. But just keep in mind the atmosphere of the world back then.
It was very daring for a woman to come out and write anything sort of like this.
Think of Mad Men when this came out then.
Yeah. So, okay. Well, let's all go through in general impressions of what we thought about the book, and then we'll start getting into the characters. I think Veronica's point is very well taken. I think a central point is her, the main character's journey. So we'll go into that after we just do some broad strokes. Kyla, you haven't talked a lot. Why don't you go first and say what did you think about the book in general terms?
Well, I thought that it was very sad. It was a sad book, and at first, a little erotic in that same way that Henry Miller is erotic, but I never found the terms womb or belly erotic, but I understand that it has a lot to do with the censorship of the time, censorship laws. So there's that. But because he had to use them as well. But I thought that the book was sad, and I thought that her definition of submission was interesting, in that she could just sort of, yes, finally just sort of, like give up all of her responsibility and all of that stuff, but then it didn't ring true, because it felt like she was really just doing this because she loved this man.
Mm-hmm.
And then when she was given over to another man, she thought, I can make this man love me, but only because it will make Renee happy. That's kind of where I got it. That's where I went with it. And I don't think that she really actually found pleasure, except for at the very, very beginning, in being submissive, but only being submissive for Renee. And then she was abandoned. And then, spoiler alert, she dies. So I thought in a novel. So I thought it was really, really sad, and I don't think that it was a very good example of BDSM. Not that I know a lot about it, but I think that the Kushiel series is a much better representation of that. I yield. I take pleasure in this, but I don't think that she was really taking any pleasure in it.
What
she
I kind
just
of
wanted to be loved.
Yeah,
so
Veronica. Yeah, Veronica, go. What's your opinion?
Oh, I was just going to say, what I kind of understand from a historical perspective, and I'm not well versed in the BDSM community, so don't take my word as rote, but I kind of get the sense that it's taken as like a historical document, like not necessarily like a precursor to existing BDSM, or something like, maybe bits and pieces could be taken from that, but it is definitely by no definition what the BDSM community is about. So I from what reading I have done, it seems like people say, oh yeah, this is something we grudgingly respect in the community, but it's not something that we take as like a historical document that like kicked off the BDSM community, if that makes any sense.
That does make sense.
I do want to say, speaking in generalizations is probably not a good idea, because there are people in that community who actually do really love this book.
No, I'm not saying they don't. I'm just saying they don't take it as like, this is not what BDSM is or where BDSM came from. It's just a like historical, like part of the pretext of the history of BDSM.
Like Marquita Saad is not the end-all be-all. It's not the Bible of that community. And just like feminism, that community is all over the place of what they deem erotic, what they deem as part of that. But a big part of that community is consent, obviously. It's consent and trust, and that's something that we'll get into later with this book as well.
Veronica, did you have any general thoughts before we body talks? I mean,
I agree with
overview.
Yeah, I agree with Kyla as well. I found it to be very, very a depressing book, and I think it's because I wanted her to be empowered, and I wanted to feel her empowerment through this submission that she seemed to want, and yet I never really got the sense that she was being empowered by it. Even in the best light that I could possibly give it, I never felt good about any of it. And maybe it's not my place to feel good for her or not feel good for her. It's her feelings and her desires, but any way I kind of looked at it, it was never a positive thing. So, maybe that's just our modern perspective, or, it's hard to look through someone else's eyes or look through someone else's heart at what they want. But, no matter how I stacked it, I could not find a positive influence for her or a positive part of this for her. And I especially found it sad when she started talking about her own sexuality and how she was, had relationships with women, and how these things got very complicated for her because she felt she put herself in a position of power in those relationships, and then in turn had to be in a position of weakness in her relationships with men, which therefore seemed to elevate the masculine so much higher in her mind than in a typical relationship. It just seemed very skewed, her feelings towards the masculine.
Yeah. Bonnie, do you want to give general thoughts? And then.
Yeah, I mean, I can kind of give my perspective from the book. I picked this book because it was part of a college course I took in the 90s called Erotica as Literature, and it was one of the main books we had in the syllabus, and it really struck me, and this was at a time in the 90s when Riot Girl movement was really huge, and owning your own sexuality, and I kind of pseudo came out of the closet as bisexual, and I know there's that joke of everyone's bisexual in college, but it was a big deal for me. And that was like, and I was exploring sexuality is what you do in your 20s, right? You explore your sexuality, or younger or older, whatever. And this is part of sexuality, is this movement. And also this book is something that everyone always says they should read, or just read it, or lem it if you have to. I don't care, but it's something that is part of that repertoire. Part of, like as Veronica said, part of the history. It's not a how-to book. It's not a tutorial. This is not the Instructables of bondage. This is not. Keep in mind this is fiction, and everybody has their own kinks.
What did you think about the book? Like, how was your experience personally, though?
I want to preface, because what I'm about to say is how I viewed how she was empowered. Because I do think empowered. Even though all these horrible things happen to her, even though clearly she's not getting off on it, she's crying, she's in pain, she's getting branded, she's getting pierced. She's having parts of her body extended and manipulated. There's body modification all the way through this book, which was pretty groundbreaking back then. But to give up control to someone else completely and totally, you gain kind of a control over them by doing that. Because in this situation especially, I do not see Renee doing these things to himself to prove his love to her. So the fact that she's doing this to prove her love to him puts him not in a dominant position. And as a matter of fact, I feel like she's sort of dominant because she's pushing her limits, and she's going as far as she can take it, to the fact that she's actually letting a perfect stranger, who's Renee's friend, or Steven, be her master to prove her love. And it's not, necessarily getting off on pain or humiliation. It's basically that, you're using these as devices, as tools, to push you to the edge, to the extreme edge that you can go, to the point that you go over that edge, and when you come back, you're a totally different person. It changes you. So you're not the same person you started when you're in this type of relationship in this book. And again, I'm not saying this is a typical relationship in this community. It's totally different for different couples and different people, and this is a work of fiction. But when you show that you have basically given somebody that much control, you are taking the control back, because it's really hard to explain, but I wrote it down. And actually Michelle in the forums wrote it very specific. She said once you've mastered yourself by giving it away, you show that you've taken control over your own wants and desires and gave it to someone as a gift, and they kind of owe you. It's like they're now in your debt. And I know that's so hard to explain and picture in this book, when at face value all you can think is she's in pain, she's getting branded, she's getting humiliated, she's wearing a horrible dress that just shows off her boobs, and that's it, and a corset, she has to wear a collar, she has to wear cuffs. But when you get past all that and all the superficial stuff, it's a bigger message, and it's a bigger, for me. And you could totally disagree.
No. You're saying exactly the stuff that I was trying to articulate, except for the fact that, I think all of us were trying to get past that part of thinking about her outfit and having sex with random people and, being submissive. But then I feel like we never get the payoff of that, because we just see it becoming increasingly more degraded, and the fact that Renee essentially abandons her and moves on to Jacqueline, and then at the end she kills herself. That doesn't seem like the positive, empowered outcome we're kind of looking for.
There are two different endings to this book. So
yes.
Some versions of this book, she can't live without them, and when Steven basically says, I don't want you anymore, I'm discarding you, she said, I would rather die, so he gives her permission to commit suicide, and that's that. There's another version of this ending where he basically hands her off to a friend, like another dude. So it's like another Sir Stephen situation.
How is that good? Okay, let me
How
just.
is it neither of them?
Okay, how is any of that empowering? Okay.
Yeah.
It's not about her having to fall in love with different guys. She's proving her love to Renee by letting all these things happen to her to make him happy, because if she makes...
How is that love? That's not love. That's... Okay. This book literally... Okay, let me just share what I thought of this book. I could not...
Let's hear it, Felicia.
I was physically ill reading this book.
Yeah.
I could not sleep. I was repulsed. And I was repulsed because... Not because of somebody's hating somebody for, you know... I was physically ill that someone could loathe themselves so much, like O does, obviously. Because when you start peeling back the layers, you know, of just the superficials in the beginning, she doesn't love herself, and she's looking for love in Renee. And there's no caring here. They all abuse her, and she abuses herself. And it's a funny contrast, because Kushal's Dart is one of my favorite books of all times, and I love everything in that, and that had a lot of violence or, you know, domination and violence and everything in it, and yet I love that book, and I think it's incredibly empowering. This book was the saddest thing, and I could not, I found myself literally, I couldn't sleep. I was tormented. It was the hardest book I've ever read to make myself get through, and once I get even more deep into it, and she starts analyzing, you get more interior into her head, because you don't really get into her head in the beginning. It got even sadder when she was talking about her experiments with women and the way she used other people, and it just felt like she was punishing herself, and then her desperation for this guy who showed her no regard whatsoever was just heartbreaking. So that's what I really feel about this particular book, not judging anything other in the bigger context. This particular book was very sad.
There actually is a level of, like, another level to this book, because she does refer to Renee as a god. And if you think of the whipping as an act of contrition, you know, the abuse as an act of contrition, of her self-abuse, on that level, that's another level that some people read into this book, that this is her punishing herself for past, past problems, past issues, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They're like self-flagellation almost, except someone else is doing it. But then we get into the whole thing where she essentially is entrapping Jacqueline into this world.
Which is horrible. And Renee says if she doesn't want to go to Royce, we'll make her, which is literally kidnapping and raping somebody. And that was like over the edge. I was like, what is going on?
She felt like a Black Widow spider in those scenes where she's like hunting Jacqueline.
What did you think of Natalie, the sister who did want to go?
Oh, that was...
She was fucked up. That kid is fucked up.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Like, if you see
some issues.
If you see a whole world that you are intrigued by, and you see all these scars on this woman that you are attracted to, and you want to know what makes her tick, and this clearly makes this is what O wanted for herself. When you see that in someone that you possibly, I'm trying not to project, and I'm not saying I would be like this, but perhaps, you know, when you're attracted to someone and you see something that they're interested in, no matter how bizarre, part of you is like, but you don't know. You don't have to agree. Well, Jacqueline, she actually did want to go to check it out, if you recall in the book, but she's like, I don't want to do anything. That's not my deal. I'm paraphrasing clearly. And O was like, you'll want it. Like, they'll just do it to you anyway. And, you know, trying to, like, let her know that it's not a spectator sport there. Like, if you show up, and you have to participate. But it was interesting. I felt she kind of was dominant in that moment, in that role over those two women. And she was, as they said in the forums, she was dom from the bottom, topping from bottom. So she's, you know, the submissive, but then in a different situation, she's not submissive.
Well, that's
I felt like she was... I'm sorry.
No, your turn. Your turn, Kyla.
I felt like she was just perpetuating a cycle of abuse.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
That's exactly how I felt, and so I didn't see it that way at all, because I don't think that she ever wanted that.
They put it up in the forums. Someone said that in a lot of prostitution rings and sex slavery and human trafficking, young runaways will try to attract other female runaways into the prostitution ring, because it's harder.
I've seen that on Law and Order.
Hey, it was a Facts of Life episode.
Well, that's also part, I've been reading a lot just for fun, American Revolution stuff and things about sex trafficking and just, articles.
Just for fun.
Just for funsies.
Just for funsies. For shits and giggles.
I guess, it's not a great, I was reading a book that actually was analyzing it, and it had, like, stories about American Indians and Native Americans and African Americans and slavery. So the idea, it was probably not good timing to read that and then see somebody basically submitting themselves to be a slave to a bunch of men. I think I might have even thought about it different if there had been women and men who were dominant.
Right.
But basically you're talking about a house who is basically forcing women to become sex slaves. I mean, that's what I saw.
Keep in mind, Renee said and multiple times in the book you can leave at any time, and she chose not to. So she was forced. She could have left them at any time, and she did not.
But she didn't have the same. The way her brain was built. She didn't have the agency to do that. It was almost as if she was trying to destroy herself in order to be saved, which she never got. I mean, that goes back to what you were talking about as far as the pledge and all that stuff.
That's emotional. It is emotional abuse. She loved him, and she wanted it very much like 50 Shades of Grey. She wanted to do whatever she needed to do.
I'm not going
to make sure that he stayed with her, and then she kind of liked it a little, and that's fine. Except for that, then it became out of control.
It is
out of her control.
To see different readers' perspectives of this book. Some people are just totally polarized and like, this is a book of abuse. All this is physical and mental abuse, and it's not sexy. It's not a turn on. Other people see it as this is testing your limits. It's not about abuse. It's about testing your sexual limits.
Well, I think the funny thing is the comparison is that I think the story of, but O was actually driving in a self-destructive way, I felt. And if you look at 50 Shades, that guy really was a stalker. Like, he's the creepy one there. It's almost like, I don't know.
The fact that, there are damaged people, too. She clearly wasn't healthy when she went into this relationship in the very beginning. And we don't know, because there's no prequel, of how much Renee was grooming her to be this woman that now would come to this situation. It's not like they just met on Tinder, and all of a sudden he's like, hey, you want to come to my dungeon castle? It's like they had been together before this, and that's implied in the book, but we don't know what happened before that.
It seems pretty obvious. I mean, they're in a taxi at the very beginning, and at the very beginning she immediately just does what he tells her to do.
The pilot is they didn't meet in the taxi.
No, I know that. I'm just saying that. I'm saying that there must have been a longer history of him.
But we don't know what that history was, and we don't know
telling her what to do.
We don't know if he was disinterested in her and she wanted to prove herself, much like the author of this story thought she was losing her lover as well, and so she wrote this.
Lisa on Twitter makes a really good point that usually we read books that are books written by women for women, and this is a book written by a woman for a man. So
that's interesting.
Not only a man, but a dude that really likes Marquis de Sade.
Right.
Yeah.
That's his job, was to publish Marquis de Sade books. That's his job, and he was totally into that. So if you're writing a love letter to your boyfriend who's totally into NASCAR, you're not going to write a story about wine.
Well, then, so if we take it as that.
Yeah.
If we take it as a book that was written for this man who's into, like NASCAR, it's like sex NASCAR. So we take it as that. Then how do we still feel about it?
Yeah. I mean, that's another thing too with this book and everybody's opinion here is valid, and it's almost like a Rorschach test. Like a sexual Rorschach test. If you read this, if you like it, do you freak out and go, oh my God, what's wrong with me? Or do you read it and go, oh my God, this woman's she's just damaged. She just needed a good boyfriend that didn't beat her up and take her to dungeons. And there's a lot of different things that we read into it because of our own likes and what we want out of a book. Because we want to root for the characters, right? We want at least one character in a book where we're rooting for them. And this is not that book.
Sir Stephen, he was the horse in my race. Yeah, no, just joking.
Oh God.
I'm joking. I was joking. But I have to admit, like the first chapter or so, like to a point, I was like, oh, this is kind of hot. Oh, this is like it's kind of hot for your guy to be like, okay, now take off your panties and let your legs rub against the leather of the seat, and I'm going to take you to this mysterious location and blah blah blah. Like that. If you're in a safe, trusting relationship, like that could be kind of awesome. I'm just gonna put that out there. But then things took a turn real fast. Where like, no, thank you, no ma'am. Yeah.
There's a lot of rules. There's dungeon rules, and I'm not a big fan of rules in general. But like the don't look at the guys in the eye, and you can't talk to other women, and you have to wear all this crap, and you have to like. There's just a lot of rules, and I do realize that's a lot of in S&M and in this type of culture, and especially in this book. There's ritualistic things that you do. There's things to set apart.
But there is a certain safety in the rituals. I understand that. And like with Kushal's Dart, like there were very firm rules about what you could do with the women that you were patroning or hiring.
Or men, yeah.
Or men. And for some reason that was like one of the best books I've ever read. And yet there was still the slave master domination and all the, the hitting and crops and all this stuff, and I never had a visceral reaction. I mean, I wasn't into the points where the guy was beating her, but I was still...
They always had agency. They always had the power to make it stop whenever they wanted to, and people in those books are depending on what house they are, hardwired to enjoy those activities. So for me, it's like they are getting their rocks off the way they like to, and they're also pleasing their partner who has the opposite perspective and likes to do those, be on the other end of the whipping stick. Mm-hmm. And then, but at the same time, if it goes too far, they have the power, no matter what, to make it stop. And there are grave repercussions if the other person doesn't follow through. So it's, there's the power balance is there, and I think that is at the heart of the BDSM community. It's, it's you get to have that feeling, that sense of danger and release, or power or control or submission, but yet still have that knowledge in the back of your head that you're in a safe place to express your sexual desires.
Yeah, like it's the safety net, whereas there is no safety net in O. There is no safety word. There's no like signal she can give to say stop.
No. I mean, if they were like, we need to cut your right arm off, like I feel like O would have done it. And that's just like messed up.
Well,
you're gonna get choked during sex, and you don't know if you're gonna just get actually choked.
And she'd be like, cool. I mean,
yeah, okay.
Bye. The story of they're not just gonna kill everyone. Because that ruins the point of all of this. Like, you don't just... Then that turns into serial killing, and that's different.
Well, but at the end, he gives her... He throws her away after assaulting her in every single way, in ways she liked and did not like, and then he allows her to kill herself. Like, that's... But the abandonment was almost even sadder to me, because Renee abandons her, which was the whole reason she got into this, and then at the alt ending is Steven abandons her, and or she kills herself. Almost the abandonment was the emotional part that made me like so sad.
Me too.
Either ending, whatever version you have of the book, both endings are crap. I mean, it's not like she all of a sudden turns the tables and she's a dominatrix and dungeon. Yeah. Like it's not like a feel-good movie with Julia Roberts at the end. There's no prince.
Well,
it becomes what is this? What was this all for? That's what it became for me in the end. Right. Like what were this was just an ends to the means to no end.
Yeah, she doesn't hold the word of God in her mouth at the end of this one.
I do want a romance book. So.
Well, somebody brought up on the forums a very interesting, like, where is the line? Because almost all these romance books, I would say 90% of romance books have a guy who is fairly dominating, who always goes, you're mine, and that's kind of a trope of female romance in general, and, like, I always buck up against it, but why is it always present in almost every romance that's out there for women?
Of the romance Bible. Like if you get, I swear to God, I'm going to buy you each a copy of The Idiot's Guide to Romance Writing for novelists that want to write their own. There's actually, many publishers have a style guide of rules. And it goes from Harlequin. It's probably changed now because of, obviously urban fantasy and Twilight type fiction, and the stuff that we read, which is very, a lot of it's very feminist and empowering and whatever. They don't necessarily follow those tropes.
Mm-hmm.
But romance sure does, because when they approached me to write a book like 10 years ago, they're like, here's the things you have to have in this book. We don't care what it's about, but there has to be a dominating dude, there has to be a Han and Leia issue going on, and there has to be a happy ending. There has to be a happy ending. It can't. And he left her, and she committed suicide. There's none of that. There's no Shakespearean Romeo and Juliet. None of that. It has to have a happy ending. And that's what it was like for the longest time. So you would read these romance books from all different, they could be set in space or Scotland. It didn't matter. There was going to be some jerk who's like, you're mine. There was going to be some love triangle of some sort. There was going to be some bickering, like Han and Leia bickering. And then it had to end happiness or pregnant.
Yeah. I've seen that about 8 million times.
So, but I think it's changing. I think that landscape is changing. And who knows? I mean, whether you hate or love 50 Shades of Grey, it really...
Well, let's talk about that now, yeah.
It really has to publishing... Well, I do have a couple more points about O before we totally forget we read it, because I know we want to pretend this never happened, but...
No, it was a great experience.
Yeah.
I mean,
I'm glad... I feel like in a way, and don't take this wrong, but I feel in a way we as a club and all the members that made a point to read the book, you kind of became our own version of O, because you went outside of your boundaries. Proved how much you loved us by reading this book. It's a hard book to get through, and I'm not going to tell you I loved it when I first read it. I threw this book against the wall I don't know how many times in college, because the feminist in me was like, what the hell is this piece of crap? And
like me with Piers Anthony.
I was so like, oh my god. Well, then we read Story of I. Read this, then read Story of I.
No, don't ever read Story of I. Don't read that.
I know.
Don't read it.
No, not.
Don't read it.
No.
oh God.
I will say that I think we've read in our forums of other books that people are recommending. Obviously, Kushil's Dart is one of our favorites that represents kind of this top and bottom S&M kind of fiction that's not degrading, and it is empowering and interesting, and it's not as polarizing as this book was. But I'm glad that I just want to say thank you for giving it a chance, even if you didn't finish the book. Even if you hate me because I suggested it, I'm glad that you went out of your boundaries. No, and this is to everyone watching. I'm just glad that you went out a little outside your boundaries and know that there's other stuff out there that may not be what you like, but you can say you've read it.
Okay. All right, 50 Shades. Yeah. Let's move on to the movie because there's so much to see there, and we're gonna run out of time.
You guys went to see the movie.
You? Okay, I watched the movie and I did not read the book.
I did not read the book.
I read the book and I saw the movie.
Okay.
And
saw the movie, did not read the book.
Bonnie, did you see the movie?
I did.
Okay, so we're all educated on 50 Shades of Grey, the movie version, and then 2 of you guys are book. Okay.
Yeah.
Kyla, you go first. You lead the 50 Shades of movie opinion.
Okay. All right. Well, so I went to see the movie, and I was prepared. I was like, oh God, I'm gonna get like triggered, and I'm gonna leave, and I'm gonna have a panic attack, and it's because everything I'd read, it's just horrible. But what happened was I actually enjoyed myself. Now there's more to it. I enjoyed myself because I love Jamie Dornan. I thought Dakota Johnson was just adorable. I thought she was in her moments of just when she was drunk, she was saying no and stuff, and she was really funny. She was constantly saying no and sticking up for herself. I did like that, but I knew while I was watching it that I was enjoying it, and there's a reason that I was enjoying it, and I shouldn't be enjoying it. And I knew that the reason is that I have been groomed to think that is a regular, okay form of a relationship. And so then I went back, and it was like a delayed reaction. And so I can compartmentalize it. There are parts of the movie that I still really, really liked, and then there are parts of the movie that I'm like, that is not okay. That is not an okay relationship. He is emotionally abusing her in a way that is just, it's bad because she wants to, she's doing this because he tells her right at the beginning, she's like, what do I get out of this? And he says, you get me. And that's not okay. And so there's so much about that's messed up. So I knew that going into it that I was going to have to think about it for a while. I kind of recognized that before I even went into it.
Book? Did you feel the same way, Kyla, when you read the book? Because the book and the movie are not identical.
The book was worse. Yeah, the book was much worse. The book was, rapier. The movie was not so much. So as far as the movie goes, there are parts of it that I enjoyed, but I still think that it sends a really, really bad message. And knowing what comes next in the next couple ones, it gets worse.
It gets worse. Just so you know, spoiler alert, if you're bothering to speed read this series, he just gets worse. And you find out his mom, well, I don't want to spoil it for everyone, but let's just say you find out his mom's occupation is a little illegal, and he mistreats women because he hates his mom. There's issues here. That's not really the bondage scene. It's more like a damage scene.
Okay. Well, Veronica, what did you think of that movie?
It was just like a bad movie. Like, pretty much everything about the movie was bad.
Even the part where she was drunk and she was yelling at him on the phone.
I do not understand why all these people hate her so much, Dakota Johnson, because I actually thought she was like the only bright spot in the entire film. I thought she was funny. I thought she was personable. She said the things I would have said in a lot of those situations. So I did not hate her as a character at all. I thought he was wooden as a stick in like a really bad way. And when he said 50 Shades of Fucked Up, everyone in the movie theater just cracked up. I was in a 21 plus screening at Kabuki in San Francisco, and everyone was a little drunk, and it was like being in a live Riff Tracks because people were just saying shit out loud and just like laughing at stuff. It was great. But there was just, it was really, really poorly done as a film, and his lines were terrible and his motivations were terrible, and he pulled so much stalker stuff, like showing like when he showed up at her mom's place in Georgia. It was so creepy.
And he's like, another Cosmo? Yeah.
Yeah, and she's like, yeah.
Another Cosmo.
I haven't even signed your contract yet, jerk off. So like,
I will have 2 Cosmos with my mom.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Something that came up in our Twitter feed about that was, and actually our forums, a lot of the readers that did delve into this book as a form of punishment, and I'm sorry, but I wanted to read it because I don't judge books unless I read them first. I'm not a person that's going to hate a book.
Same. I reserve my judgment.
Sucks have to read it, but a lot of people were like, if this guy lived in a trailer and worked at a gas station, he would be arrested, but because he's a billionaire and he's supposedly charismatic and dresses well, he's considered like a prime catch. And it's interesting to think about that, because if this took place in a trailer park, would it be as romantic to some people who...
No, he'd be an abusive creep. It'd be like some weird stalking movie.
It would be like True Detective. He'd be like the guy in True Detective, the murderer in True Detective. But anyway, I did find his taste in Audis to be rather sexy, but that's a different story. I thought that every car he drove was an Audi.
You mean like the guy in True Detective with like every time he had a different accent?
No, well, yeah, like let's make flowers together or whatever. Yeah.
It's been a while since you made flowers.
I made flowers with me. That's what Christian Grey should say in the next book. I'm gonna make some flowers on your belly.
Okay. Well, I went to Disney alone on Valentine's Day.
You turned into a sling blade.
We went on the same day. We went on.
Oh no, it was the day before Valentine's.
We
but
went
it was
on Galentine's Day.
Yeah, Galentine's Day. So I'm alone in Vancouver in a theater with a lot of couples who obviously thought they were going to get off on the movie, you know? They're like, ooh, baby. And as the movie goes on, I have to say that it was a terrible movie. Like, some of the writing was so bad. I love Dakota Johnson. I agree with you, Veronica. I have to say that I think that the director did a very sly thing in that she could have romanticized everything about Christian Grey in a lot more ways, and she subtly cut him down and made him creepy, I think because she saw that in the material, and that's probably why she and the author fought a lot, because directorially she did not make it as romantic, like a romantic Lifetime movie, as she could have. So I have to give her that.
Yeah.
But as the movie ended, and he's like beating the shit out of her, and everyone's just like horrified, and then the movie ends. It was like
not horrified.
No one had a boner in there. No one was getting laid that night. That's all I can say.
I was not horrified. I was like, it's just a belt.
So, if you want some gossip about the scenes, gossip about.
Yeah, she wanted to.
No.
Sorry, Bonnie, you're breaking up. What, Bonnie?
Bonnie, you're breaking up. What?
Okay, so a little gossip about the actors in this movie. Dakota and Jamie hate each other's guts.
Yeah, I've read all this.
Yeah, we've seen this, but we don't know that this is true.
The movie, they hated each other's guts. And the best way you can see this, and I think the article's either on Jezebel or Defamer, there's a press junket
Jezebel.
Of all the videos that they did for press junket, and they hate each other in the videos. Like, she's being mean to him, he's insulting her, and it's not an act. This isn't a car stunt. Jamie was a fourth choice to be in this movie. There were other guys in this movie.
Can I just say, I wish it was Charlie Hunnam, because he's one of the hottest guys on the planet. At least I would have been like...
But I love Jamie Dornan. I love him.
What happened with Jamie was...
He's Irish. Have you watched The Fall? Have you watched it?
That's what I'm trying to say. He's a serial rapist in The Fall, and I think that was his audition tape for this role. Because
whatever.
The dialogue in that is very, like, he's a stalker. He's clearly treating women like he wants to hunt them, and that's what this felt like. I felt like the book was like that, the movie was like that. It was not representative of the scene we just talked about. Even though Story of O is polarizing, I think Story of O is more representative than what this is. This just feels like a stalker that's hunting a virgin.
I would like to read a book that's sort of like, this is actually how this should work, and because but then again, I don't want to read anything like it again.
Well, does Cushiel's Dart fit that mold? I mean, is that representative?
I
don't know. Really,
I would have to ask somebody who's in that scene to see if it's like if it's at least in the vein representation of what that could be.
Feels like it must be.
I'll get into this more in my alt blog. Just as an apology, my camera broke, so I didn't get to post it sooner than later, but this will probably go up tomorrow, and I'll give you my review of the book, not the movie, but the actual book. But also, that's a good segue to Bared to You, which by Sylvia Day, which actually represents and kind of mirrors 50 Shades of Grey a little bit in the characters. You know,
really?
A billionaire that's also kind of like this, but it's the thing about this book, and it's a spoiler, but it's a spoiler you probably need to know, is both Eva, who is the female protagonist in Bared to You, and Gideon, who is the Mr. Grey character. They both were victims of sexual abuse in the book as children, and that comes up a lot in this book as to how they treat sexual relationships moving forward, their friendships moving forward. I actually kind of liked this book. And I went to it thinking, I'm not going to like this. It's going to be a 50 Shades.
Well, you're going to do an alt review anyway later. So anyway,
an alt review of this one as well. I just want to say, if you don't want to read this is a bit better.
Yeah. Okay. Let's do some casting.
Okay.
Yeah.
For all
Let's do some casting. I mean, unless we have any more, does anybody have anything more to say about the movie?
I would just like to say, as a Portlander, I would like to talk about the fact that the Heathman Hotel is not fancy like that anymore. Used to be, a long time ago. Not anymore. Sorry, Heathman. They're never going to invite me there. And they got the rain all wrong because it just mists here. It doesn't.
Well, they shot it in Vancouver because I worked with some people who worked on it. It was all Vancouver.
See, yeah, it doesn't rain like that here. It just sort of misty rains. It very rarely ever like pours like that. It's just happen like in March, but then it hails. So it's very weird.
So not representative of BDSM or Portland.
Yeah. But her bangs and her hair and her outfits totally spot on.
Her bangs came up too high in the center. They were kind of like little it was like a little point in the center, and I didn't like that. I like perfectly across.
Your bangs are always on point, though, V.
Your bangs are on point.
I take very special care of them.
But I felt like her bangs would be better for like my forehead because I feel like she and I had this like same. I have a shorter forehead, so you would need a shorter.
Like a shorter center to draw the eye up to the forehead.
Exactly.
But there's one thing that someone posted on Twitter that I think is an interesting afterthought about 50 Shades of Grey. Melissa said if Grey was a woman and Anna was a guy, the movie would be a thriller. And that's
like Gone Girl?
Maybe like Basic Instinct or what's the one with Glenn Close?
But in both of these, 50 Shades and in Story O, there were dominant women. Like the woman who put the thing on her VV, her hoo-ha.
I could not even visualize that. I had a really hard time visualizing the dangly bit. The dangly bit stuck to her forever.
I didn't like it.
And I'm very glad there was no tampering in the movie.
I feel like I need to see a picture, but I don't want to see a picture.
It was like, but it dangled down to her knees. It was like a pull chain for like a light bulb or something, wasn't it?
Ding dong.
What if it was like a clapper?
It felt like a pendulum. Like that's what I kept picturing, like a grandfather clock thing, like in between her legs.
A lot of people were having problems with Story of O visualizing the attachments that were happening, and the Wikipedia page for Story of O does show what the shackles look like and miscellaneous equipment. So
I'm on the Wikipedia page. Oh my God, you're right. Well, there's the ring. Well, there's the ring, the finger ring, but I don't see the vagina ring.
The vagina ring. It was a whole contraption. It was like Coco Chanel would say, take one accessory off, lady.
You know, I have to say, one of my best girlfriends from college has the finger ring from Story of O, and I never understood the reference until this month, and that makes me upset.
Was she one of those girls who'll go with anybody?
No, I don't know. I don't know her secret sex life, but now that I know it, I'm like, ooh, do we need to talk? Are you okay?
The one part of O that was interesting, until I was horrified because I was like, somebody might have actually done this. She's a sex slave. And then I was like, and then I read the biography of it, but there is an aspect of, not with the sex slavery and the abuse, but the underground sex thing that was interesting to me, kind of like in John Wick. Did anybody see John Wick?
Yes.
The underground
I haven't yet, but I want to see it. I haven't seen it yet, so don't.
It's not a spoiler, but they have an underground assassins world that was like the coolest thing I've ever seen, and that was kind of what Story of O. That would be.
Didn't we talk about on last month to not watch John Wick because reasons?
Well, the dog dies in the beginning.
Oh, great, Barney.
And not a spoiler. It's in the trailer.
All right. It's at the very beginning.
It is in the trailer.
So
there's puppy death.
So you can get over it right away.
There's a website that someone wrote. Well, yeah, that's what.
Yeah, we've talked about that.
The movie, but I think there's a website that says thedogdie.com.
Yeah.
Any movie with the dog dies. So
all right, that's good to know.
Did you guys see that I put up Instagram that at Target they're selling the vibrating finger ring with the thing, and so you can put it in on or in any area that would feel pleasure. They have the sleep mask, and there's also a perfume cologne. I don't know which it is, but they have the finger vibrating. It's right there in the pharmacy area on the outside aisle.
All I can think of is that 50 Shades of Grey has interested people that have a normal, I don't want to say normal, let's say vanilla sex life, who now suddenly want to try gadgets but don't know how to use them. I feel like there's got.
I want that riding crop. I'm telling you that right now.
Like a great Amazon review section of people writing reviews on like Good Vibrations or wherever they're getting sex toys going, how does this work? There's no manual. None of these things come with manuals except for maybe vibrators. But even those, I mean, that's self-explanatory. But some of the sex toys can be confusing if you don't know how to use them. So I just am gonna die laughing if we're gonna see more police reports of people that have accidentally like stuck themselves together because they don't.
I bet there's a lot of like related injuries.
Yes.
Right. Can I ask you one question? When you guys saw it at the theater, what did you guys have the choice to have the 50 Shades of Grey wine, the white or red wine?
No.
Well, I did. I didn't have it. I had a Diet Coke, but I thought about it.
That's crazy. I didn't know they were doing cross merchandising at the actual theater. I know Bevmo.
Oh, yes.
Bevmo has it. I've tried it. It's just cheap wine. It's, you know.
Okay, let's do casting to wrap it up,
Okay.
ladies, since we're all quite drunk at this point.
I'm not. I only had one glass of wine. I can't be hungover tomorrow, so I gave up.
Aww. Okay, Veronica, well, let's do casting. What casting?
Why would you ask me this first? I just kind of leech off other people's ideas.
All right, Kyla, go first. Kyla, go first.
I would cast Jamie Dornan and Dakota Johnson. I'm not kidding. I really, really liked them both. But I wouldn't have minded Charlie Hunnam.
Oh my God, his last name is
I know, his last name is So that would have been just fine as well.
Okay,
but I did think Dakota Johnson was really, really great. I really liked her.
She was actually redeemed some things. Okay, Bonnie, what? Go.
I'm going through a cumber cleanse, so I'm not thinking about Cumberbatch for a while. I have to purge Cumberbatch for a while.
Is it because he got married, or are you just like bitter?
It's honestly, I think I reached the tipping point of ODing on all things Cumberbatch. I knew it was going to happen. I do this with everything I like too much. I get sick of it. So, and it's not because he got married. Actually, I think his wife is hot, if you want to call it a real marriage. But anyway, so.
Oh my God.
There's so much subtext here that I.
I have the biggest crush, and he's not even an actor. It's Sergei Pulin, who is the Russian ballet star from the Royal Ballet that did that video that went viral of him.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that Take Me to the Church?
Take Me to Church one, yeah.
I made Jesse watch that.
Body, male ballet dancers don't wear a lot of armor, if you know what I mean. So,
She's like, take me to church, and I'm like, okay.
Oh my God. So.
Yeah, I would find religion for that man. That's for sure.
Yeah, and he's way young. He's like 23 or something. So he's my new Cumberbatch. So I put him in that role of everything.
Did you like the classical parts? Because I didn't like the classical parts. I only enjoyed the modern parts.
Oh, when he's like rolling around on the floor.
Yeah, I didn't like the classical parts.
I don't know. I'm extremely sexist when I watch ballet because I'm only in it for the gawking and not for the artistry. So I'm a very shallow person when it comes to ballet.
Okay, what about a girl? What about girls, Bonnie?
The female, it was hard because I'm not talking about the alt books or 50 Shades of Grey. I'm thinking of Story of O. You want kind of a vulnerable looking actress, I assume, to play O, and I always go to Eva Green, but Eva Green's so strong, and so, you know.
No way. She's a top.
I got one.
Who do you have for that?
Audrey Tautou.
That was mine! That was mine! Mine!
I did a casting, and it was Felicia's. I got
it before
it was her top pick. All right, well, I guess we're just great minds. Great minds think alike.
That's true.
Yep.
And for Sir Stephen, I had Ian Solom, the guy from Vampire Diaries.
He's way too young. I mean, Sir Stephen's supposed to be like 50.
I always cast young.
Okay.
Burt Reynolds.
Fine. I think Sir Stephen should be Colin Firth. There.
No, I love him too much to be hitting her.
You don't need to make the guy ugly. He could be a hot jerk.
He only did her in the booty. No, you can't have him.
Oh no, I can't keep talking about this because I keep like all the horrible memories from this book keep popping back into my
I know,
mind.
it's
Like,
awful.
the
He's
paper.
What about Carrie? What's her face from
Mulligan?
Mulligan, yes.
Oh
Yeah.
Because she looks so sad all the time.
She always
She
does
does.
look so sad. Okay, here's mine. Anne Hathaway.
Oh.
That's my second.
Oh, got it. Well, I don't want to see Anne Hathaway defiled.
What?
With butt plugs.
Oh, butt
Okay.
tapers.
That was hard enough.
Okay, for the guys, they were two people I would not think of sexy. Guy Pearce or Renee, because he doesn't seem. He seems. You like him? Really?
Well, I like him, but I don't like him.
I'm with you, Kyla.
Yeah.
And Liam Neeson. And Liam Neeson was actually brought up on the forums a lot. So
Really?
Yeah.
I pictured like a really old, kind of fat, like white-haired dude.
Like a white
With Sarah Steven.
like a pink sweaty guy.
Yeah, totally, like a pink
Oily.
cheeks, like like older dude. Like maybe I'm just like way too, because he was supposed to be his older brother.
Yeah.
No, more like, oh my God, no, I don't even want to like a Jerry Gergic from like Parks and Rec, but like not as.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Scary Jerry Larry. You know.
Like Gene Hackman.
Yeah, okay.
Oh,
I'm with you
Gene
on that.
Hackman I could get on board with.
Yeah. See?
I would have said Kevin.
You're never gonna watch Parks and Rec the same way again now that.
Nope.
Good thing the show's over.
Everyone in the chat is being vulgar now about butt sex because I mentioned it.
And now I'm thinking about Chris Pratt in 50 Shades of Grey, and like it's a whole different movie.
Hi, Elric says George Lucas.
Oh God! See, it's all going downhill from here.
Or Tim Curry. Oh my God, James Spader. So many good ones.
Spader. Yeah, James Spader. I'm
James
down.
Spader is actually a good one.
Yeah, I'm down with James Spader because Blacklist, he's still sexy, so I'm down with that.
He's the only good part of Blacklist.
Oh, I hate his face. Oh, that's so mean to say. That was so mean to say. Why would I ever
He's
say
so
that about
good
a
in
person?
it. He's such a good actor.
I don't like his face. I'm sorry. People don't like my face. That's cool. Sometimes you just don't like someone's face.
Sometimes you
Feel
just
bad.
don't like
I'm sorry.
I like your face.
I like your face. I like all
you
your
look
faces.
very good today. I mean, you always look nice,
Oh.
but you look particularly nice today.
Professional
You do.
help. I had professional help.
You
Yeah.
did? No.
Somebody curled my hair a couple days ago. That's.
You all look beautiful.
I'm glad this is like our Band-Aid, like our balm for the whole evening. Is it just to flatter each other until we feel better?
But it's true. It's true. You're all beautiful ladies.
We need this as like a healing mechanism. This is our new safety word. Maybe we have a safety word for vaginal fantasy shows where things get too creepy. We say our safety word.
Yeah, our safety word cannot be belly, because that's what someone suggested in the beginning of the show.
No, belly is. It was vagina. That was when he put her hand in her belly, and I was
In
like,
her belly.
how did it get inside her belly?
I kept
You gotta
picturing
go
like
through her vagina.
a cupping motion of some kind.
Yeah,
Never
it's like-
mind.
I don't know. Don't do that on. Don't do that on camera, Felicia.
Please don't put your hand on my belly. I might have just eaten a burrito. Please don't do that.
I don't like my belly touched after burritos and whippings.
That's not sexy.
Okay, guys. Well, we're gonna wrap it up because it's clearly degraded to the point where we're not really on anything. If you have any suggestions, put them on the forums of any other books in the genre that might be a little more faithful, because we did have some really interesting discussions on both sides, if there is a side, but both perspectives of the BDSM community, and I was really grateful that we had so much interesting conversation on the forums this month. So let's keep it up and join into the conversation. And thank you for everybody watching. Next month we have a milder theme. It is epic space sci-fi epic.
I'm in space.
So our main pick is Fortune's Pawn by Rachel Bach. It is the first in a trilogy, so if you like it, there's other books to read there. And then the alt book will be reviewed by Veronica, and it's called Dark Ship Thieves by Sarah Hoyt. Not a lot of sexy times. It's more sci-fi this month. but I thought we could do an amuse-bouche palette cleanser. And I'll try to get some sexy times going in on March. I got to pick those books tonight. So I'll put them up on the forum on the upcoming shelf. Any last words, lady? Anything you're doing this month you want everybody to know about?
I just want my last word for this episode is, again, thank you for all of you who took that leap of faith, whether or not you feel like you got pushed off a cliff or not, I don't know. But thank you for taking a risk and reading something outside of your comfort zone. And I hope that you will, if you're interested in this community or fiction that is S&M fiction, know that there's so many books out there and so much information out there. Don't just get all your information from Story of O or 50 Shades of Grey, please.
Mm-hmm. There's much more to the lifestyle and community, from what I understand. So, all right.
And I did a podcast with Alex Falcone. He's here in Portland, and he does a lot of stuff with very famous celebrities and what do you call them? Comedians, yeah, and he's awesome. Anyways, he does late night action show, but he also does Read It and Weep, and they talk about books and movies and TV. And they did a podcast, and they asked me to do 50 Shades of Grey, and I did it. And we talked about vaginal fantasy a lot, and I laughed way too much as I listened to it. So I'm gonna stop that, and then.
Nice.
But anyways, you should listen to it. It's called Read It and Weep, and you should check it out.
And it's on Twitter. It's on our Twitter. I tweeted it, Kyla, so people.
Oh, thank you.
Vaginal Fantasy Twitter.
All right, fine. I'll do a pitch. I didn't get to do a pitch. Okay, I'll do a pitch.
Veronica, pitch it.
So Sword and Laser is reading the Goblin Emperor, which is nominated for a Nebula Award this year. So that is our March pick. So if you want also a female-written fantasy novel, so if you would like to hop in with that, if you got some extra reading time, swordandlaser.com. Come on in.
Yay! All right. Great. Subscribe to the channel if you like our thing, and I'll see you on the forums. Bye, everybody.
Bye.